May I go ahead? I'm going to share my screen. I do have a PowerPoint. Oh, Jessica, can you give me permission to share that?
Go ahead and try it now.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I will get my PowerPoint going here. I do want to kind of introduce myself. I don't know very many of you. And I also want to share a little bit about my background and how I came to be at the higher ed level, because I think it will help everyone to understand where I'm coming from and kind of how I found my path into an intensive English program. And then I'll go into talking about an intensive English program and what that means, what we actually do. So I actually started way back in high school. I went to kind of a small school district, and at the time I was there, we were getting a lot of Hispanic immigrants coming into our community. However, we had no ELL or multilingual teachers, and the elementary ed teachers didn't know what to do with these students. So, what did they do? They went to the only source that they even thought of, which was our Spanish teacher at the high school. And I just happened to be taking Spanish at the time. And so our Spanish teacher was telling us about these elementary ed students who spoke Spanish but did not know any English. And the teachers did not know what to do with these students because they couldn't communicate to them. They didn't know Spanish. So I remember talking to my teacher after class and saying, what can we do for these students? I feel so bad. I want to help. And along with a couple of friends, I started a after school program for these students, not knowing what I was doing, but we would go after school every day and we would meet with these students. We would read books to the students. We would translate with them. I used my limited Spanish ability to do so. And so that kind of got me involved in ESL. And so I started learning about the K through 12 system and how it works with these second language learners. When I went to college, my idea was that I would also go into K through 12, but somewhere along the pathway, my plans changed a little bit, and I actually ended up becoming a high school Spanish teacher, and kind of threw ESL off to the side. But as I was graduating college, I thought to myself, oh, what happened to ESL? I really enjoyed it, and I really want to get back into it. But when I went to my advisor, they said, you're a senior, it's a little bit late for you. You should probably just go on and get a master's if you want to go into any sort of second language teaching. So I did teach high school for a while. I did work with the elementary, translating for families. I continued to use my Spanish with them. And when I did go on to get my master's, again, I had the idea that I was going to teach elementary ESL, or ELL as they say now. Um, but when I was going through the program, I started working in the intensive English program here at UNI. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And I haven't left. It's been about 13 years now that I've been here. I did continue for a while going to the elementary schools and working with students in Waterloo. I've worked at the high school with second language learners. So if you guys have questions about how it kind of the differences between the K through 12 system and the higher ed system, I want to give you that background that I have a little bit because that might help you where you could ask some questions about that. I'm happy to answer those questions. Now I want to focus on the intensive English program at a higher ed level and how that's a little bit different than the K through 12. So here at UNI, we have what's called a CIEP, which means Culture and Intensive English Program. Different universities will call it different terms, but this is what we happen to say here at UNI. For our program, we are actually under the umbrella of the Office of International Programs. That would include like study abroad. So if you're thinking about doing that, that would be part of our extension. We are self-sufficient, meaning we are accredited. And we actually started accreditation, I believe it was back in maybe 2009. And it was prior to President Obama who started an Accreditation of English Language Training Programs Act. This act was due to a lot of language programs that were popping up around the country and around the world. And many of these programs were not really trained on how to teach any sort of second language. So President Obama said we need a law, we need accreditation for these programs, and we need to make sure that they are credible. Thankfully at UNI, we had already started this. And so for us, we got our accreditation right away. We've kept our accreditation, and it's something that we have to maintain now. So every few years, we have to write reports, we have to have site visits, and that is part of our job. So there are times where I have to write a report that will go for that accreditation. We are run by a director who oversees the recruitment as well as the instructors in the program. And she also works with the students to get them to get their visas. She helps them with any questions they have there. So she kind of oversees the whole program. Now we do have different levels of instructors. We have academic support specialists, which is what I am considered. That means that I'm on a yearly renewable contract. And so I've been there for 13 years, but each year my contract would renew with the university. We also have academic support assistants. These assistants can work for us for 2 years. Again, they're on a renewable contract, but that can be renewed for 2 years. At that point, they would either have to move into a position for a specialist, or they would have to look for something different. That is only a 2-year position. Then we also have graduate teaching assistants, and that would be anyone who is in the graduate program to become a TESOL instructor. They can apply to work with us, and we often have graduate students. We couldn't do our program if we didn't have graduate students. We really enjoy having these graduate teaching assistants because it helps us. It helps us to teach our classes, but it also kind of keeps our foot in the door of what's happening in the program. We can kind of work with them. We get fresh perspectives. So we really do enjoy having these graduate teaching assistants with us. We also have an activities coordinator who would coordinate anything like conversation hours, conversation partners. She takes students on field trips. That would be part of her job. And we also integrate that into our classes as well. So our English levels. Now we actually have a 7-level program that does not count our beginning level, which would be bridge. So we have bridge, we have level 1, and that goes all the way through level 7. Bridge through level 3 would be considered a beginner. They typically come with no English. We've had students who do not speak a word of English, but we also get students who know a little bit, but not enough to really form sentences or to write a good paragraph. So at the beginning, when a student comes to us, we interview them. We have a diagnostic that we give to them so we can test them. It is an in-house created test. The students would take this and we would place them into a level. So at the beginning of every term, all of the teachers get together, we test the students, we talk about each student individually, and we decide what level they should be placed in. If they are in bridge, that's the very beginning, they can look at staying in our program just from bridge to level 3 for about a year, just to learn that beginning information. They'd be on the word or the sentence level. They'd learn how to write a paragraph, and usually it's just a short paragraph. That we would have short conversations with them. And really, you can kind of think of it as teaching survival language. What are the colors? How do I go to the grocery store and buy some bananas, right? It would be the basics of the language. The intermediate level would be levels 4 and 5. If the students start in level 4, they would be with us for about a semester. So we are an 8-week program. So we follow the UNI schedule, but when UNI is at their midterms, we're actually ending our classes. We have finals, and then we start up that following week again, a new term that would last 8 weeks. In the summertime, we also have an 8-week program. So overall, in the course of a year, we actually offer 5 terms for that entire year. Level 4 or 5 students are on the clause level. We're looking at some more advanced grammar structures. They would be writing paragraphs, and by the end of level 5, they would also be writing essays. They'd be having longer conversations. We tend to focus on syllable and stress in our speech for pronunciation. And they would also be listening to short lectures, probably, 5-8 minutes long. The advanced levels are 6 and 7. Again, if they start in 6, it would be a semester. They would have to take both of them. Now, in level 6 and 7, we start to get into academic work. By level 7, we are expecting that they are at the academic level. That means that we don't really teach them any new skills in level 7. Level 7 is to mirror an academic class where they actually have to show us that they have learned how to do the skills, and they have to be able to apply those skills. We're really looking for the application in level 7. Students also have to do research at that level. They have to learn citations, how to paraphrase, quotes, writing a works cited or a reference page, all of those types of activities. The students would also be listening to lectures that would go perhaps 50 minutes or an hour to show us again that they can listen to an instructor who is lecturing and that they can take notes on that lecture. Now, we are an outcome-based program. These are self-created outcomes. So our program has created them. The instructors work on these. We decide on these together. These are not the same outcomes that you would see at another intensive program because, again, they're in-house. Now, the one thing that we do say is that we are not a textbook-driven program. We do not believe that we should pick up a textbook, go through the pages, and that's what we teach. Instead, we focus on the outcomes. What do we want students to know by the time they finish this class? And that's the goal. So as long as our textbook helps us to accomplish that, we use it. But at the same time, that also means that we may have to supplement with some materials that we find as well. So we do end up supplementing our textbooks a lot. Now, we divide our classes into 3 courses. So in the course of a day, a student would have 4 hours of class. They would have 1 hour of listening, speaking. They would have 1 hour of reading, and they would have 2 hours of writing. Most programs are divided this way, but you can find some intensive programs that would combine like reading and writing, and they might have listening, speaking, and perhaps grammar separated. It just depends on the program that you're in. So listening, speaking, we focus a lot on vocabulary, pronunciation. Students learn how to take notes. So if they're listening to a lecture, they're able to write that down and remember the information. We do a lot of listening to lectures or having conversations that they have to listen to. And then the activities that they go and do on campus, they actually have to record logs for us to tell us about that activity. So it's a speaking skill. So anytime you're a conversation partner with them, or if you do an activity with them, most likely they're then reporting that in their listening speaking classes and telling their instructor what happened during that activity. Reading is 1 hour a day. Oh, and I should say in listening speaking, we also do a lot with presentations. Students have to learn how to present, and sometimes they have to do group presentations because we know that that's important for the university. So everything that we do in these levels, it's all for academic prep. It's all for them to be able to go into the university. Now, reading, we have 1 hour a day, and it's very skill based. It's very intensive. We focus on main ideas. We focus on paraphrasing, how to put ideas into your own words, summarizing, anything that would be a reading skill based on the level, that's what we would be teaching them. In the higher levels, we do focus on research. We have them go to the Rod Library. They have packets of activities that they have to do on how to find a book, how to use the resources, how to search for something on the Rod Library website, those kinds of activities. Now, one thing that we don't focus on, especially right now with our students, we don't have a lot of lower level students right now. But in the past, we have had a lot of lower level students who come in with barely any English. And I put a picture up here of a program that we did called Book Safari, where we had these students go to the Rod Library. They would go to the youth collection, which is where all of the children's books are in the Rod Library. And we would actually have those students do extensive reading. And that means they would just sit down with a book. They would sit for, a half hour or an hour, and they would read that book. They would decide what vocab they wanted to focus on or how they wanted to interact with the book themselves. So this was just kind of a free reading. And the reason that we did that was when we had so many students at the lower levels, we also had a lot of students who came from countries where reading was not emphasized. So they did not have the reading skills that they need to actually go into the university and be able to keep up with the reading material. So this was a way to help them improve their reading skills and to improve their vocab a little bit faster than just working on skills. Now, again, as I said, we don't have a lot of lower levels, so it's not something that we see in our program, but it is something we would bring back if we had a lot of lower levels. Now, the other class that we have is a writing class, but we also include grammar in that class. We meet with them for 2 hours a day, and our classes are every day. We don't take any days off, so it's Monday through Friday. In this class, students work on journals, which are just free writing, where they can talk about a topic, they can try to use vocab that they've learned or some sort of grammar skill that they've learned. And it's a chance for them to try the writing without it being formal. But we also do formal writing, which would be the paragraphs or the essays that they write. And we would expect students to have a topic sentence for each paragraph, to have a thesis if they're writing an essay, and it would be considered more formal, more academic. So typically 1 hour is spent on grammar and 1 hour is spent on writing. And the essays that they write are typically based on kind of topics where it would be like a problem solution or an opinion. So they get a chance to try some different types of writing. Now, I want to talk a little bit about special programs, and I'm not going to focus on this too much because there's some other programs that I do want to spend some more time talking about. But every now and then we may get a group coming in who has a specific focus for what they want to learn. Typically, these are called short-term programs. They may only be here at UNI for 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they are going to return to their home country. They're not actually going to stay and go to UNI. So sometimes they want a class just on public speaking, on how to give a presentation and be formal. Sometimes they want a class just on pronunciation, or we have a group that comes and they want to focus on language, cross-culture, and history. They actually take an academic class with the history department at the same time, and we are considered a supporting class to their history class. And so we would focus on the vocabulary with them. We would work on reading skills with them so that they can read the materials for that class. We also do some writing with them so that they can write and respond to any prompts that the teacher would ask them. So for us, this is really a supporting class for an academic class that the students are enrolled in at the same time. Now, we also do this with the business courses as well. So there are universities that send students who are business majors. And while they're taking their business academic class, we would be offering a supporting course to usually go over public speaking. How do you give a presentation in a business class? Or how do you write a formal report or an email or a letter in business? Or how would you have a meeting? What would you say in a meeting? How would you interrupt politely in a meeting? So those are the types of things that we would talk about in that business course. But again, students would be taking their academic business class at the same time. We also offer teacher training. There are teachers, English teachers in various countries who need help with teaching English. So sometimes they come to us and ask for some sort of training for those teachers, and we do try to provide that. It's not something that we have done a lot of, but we have been asked to do that in the past. And then I've also offered distance conversation partners where students would have a partner who's in another country and they would practice their English together. That was something that happened many years ago now, but it's something that could still be something that could come up. So if you do go into higher ed, not only would you be teaching some of these, reading, writing, listening, speaking, grammar, but you may also have to teach a specialized course in a specific area. Now, part of my job is to also do EFL teaching, which is where the students are in another country, but yet I am teaching them from the US, or I travel to their country to teach them. One of the courses that I do is called Exposition and Report Writing. This is offered in the summer. It's typically 3 to 4 weeks. It varies on the term, and it is in Shanghai, China. I've done it for 3 years in the summer. So I will travel to Shanghai. I will teach at the university. It's called Dianji University. And it's actually through the business department. So the business department here at UNI has what's called a 2+2 program with the university in China. Now, what that means is that the students who are going to go into business, they do 2 years in China at the Shanghai Dianji campus, and then they finish their last 2 years here at UNI on our campus. When they graduate, they actually get a certificate from the Shanghai Dianji campus. So they actually get a diploma from there, but they also get a diploma from the University of Northern Iowa. So for them, it's a wonderful thing because they get a diploma from both, and they also get the experience of practicing their English, learning from the business department here in the United States, and then typically they'll go back to China and work then. When I teach them, again, it's typically to intermediate students. So they're typically in levels 5 and 6. So I focus a lot on reading and writing. So we start working on a paragraph and then moving into an essay because they will need that in their business classes. Now, I've also done online reading and writing classes with a school in Peru. They were in high school and they were more at the lower level, maybe like a level 4. So we focused a lot on sentence writing, on just paragraph writing. These students stayed in Peru and I stayed here in the United States. And so everything was online, which was the first time I had done that. And it was really interesting to do. But online teaching is something that we are seeing more of, even pre-COVID. This was something that we saw a lot more of. Now, the other thing that I also do is with Peru. I co-teach a class with a STEM professor on campus, And we teach a group in Peru as well. These are college students at UDEP, is the university. This is about a 5-week program. And what's interesting about it is that we do every other year. So one year, the students will come to UNI for 2 weeks. The rest of the instruction is online. So we meet with them online first, they come here for 2 weeks, and then we meet with them online after. Now, the next year, the other teacher and I travel to Peru and teach them there. So it kind of helps with the expense where students don't always have to travel here, but at the same time, they can still get instruction from us. And what we do with them, it's a program called Globe, which if you haven't heard of that, that's a program that NASA has started. And they're trying to collect data all around the world because these scientists can't actually travel everywhere in the world. And so they ask students to collect data for them. So what happens in this co-teaching situation is that I'm there for the language support because typically these students are in levels 5 or 6. So they're not quite advanced enough to take an academic class on their own. But at the same time, I can't teach the content. And so I need the co-teacher who knows the STEM, knows the GLOBE program, can teach them the science and do the experiments with them. And she needs me to help them with the language and to help kind of translate that so that they can understand it. So we do work together a lot. We've done this program. This will be our 3rd year of doing this program. And it's been going really well the last few years. And I think we're going to offer it in January this year. So I'm really excited to continue with that. A couple of other EFL teaching that's really interesting. We're partnering up with the John Papa John Center, which does a lot of entrepreneurial work. And we're seeing that in a lot of countries, particularly Kosovo has asked us to do a program with them. And then UDEP, which is the science where I do the environmental ed, they've also asked us to do a program with entrepreneurship. So again, it'll be co-teaching where we have an instructor who focuses on entrepreneurs. And then they'll have myself who's going to focus on the English aspect of it. And in these countries, a lot of them are trying to build their economy. It's something that they're focusing on right now. And so they are really asking a lot for anything to do with building a business, entrepreneurs, how to do it. So that's something that we're trying to offer. We're in the process of building this class, and then hopefully we're hoping 2021 we'll be able to actually offer the class and start that. So it's still something that we're working out, but it is in development. Another one that we have done, well, again, it's kind of in development stages. We've partnered with John Deere in Waterloo, and John Deere has a call center all around the world. So if you need help and let's say you have a tractor that is not working, you call a call center, you could get someone anywhere in the world. Now, who we're working with are people mainly in Mexico. There's a call center. And the problem is they know English. They actually have very good English, but they're having problems with understanding the native speakers. Because as you all know, if you talk to someone from Alabama or New York or California, anywhere in the US, they're going to sound different than anywhere else in the US, right? It's regional. So they're actually having problems with understanding regional speech and working on that pronunciation. Also, they've noticed, it's really interesting because they've noticed that we like to talk about cultural conversations at the beginning of the telephone call. How's the weather? Is it raining there? And that's something that they're not used to. So they also need help in understanding what is a conversation going to be like to make that small talk with a native speaker. So this is something, again, that's in development. It's probably going to be online for the most part. So they will be in Mexico taking the class. And so it will be an EFL situation. Now, I do want to talk about the higher ed versus the K-12 because that's something that I know you guys are interested in. And then I want to talk about a program that we're doing with the Waterloo School District. So when you talk about higher ed, really, one of the big differences is that we are skill based. We do focus specifically on reading and writing because that's what these students are going to go into in the academic setting. So everything we teach is really geared toward academic work. So we don't do necessarily a lot of that just everyday living or everyday speech or communicating out in the community. K through 12, it's a lot more content based, or you might be doing some of those developmental skills with them. Now in higher ed, we have to be very careful with our students regarding their visas. Visas are something that kind of come and go. Sometimes they're easier to get, sometimes they're harder to get. And we have to always be aware of what's happening with different countries, what's happening with the visa process. We have students apply and then get denied their visas. So that's something that we always have to be aware of. If you're in K through 12, immigration status would be something that you would have to be aware of. And we know, especially now, that that's something on everybody's radar. Higher education, most of our students do have a formal education in their home countries, which means they probably have graduated high school and they've done that in their native language. So they truly understand the information they were given. But in K through 12, you see a lot of times that it's a limited academic background and they may have an interrupted education. So they may not have all of the skills that they need to actually be in that grade. And now you're working on trying to get them into that grade level, that proficiency that they need. In higher education, again, when they finish college, most of them are going to return home. They're really here only to get that degree. Very few will actually stay in the US. Most actually have the plan to return home. And in K through 12, they would be part of the community. They would be planning on living here. And so that's something that you have to take in consideration is that their English really is needed to actually live in this environment. So several years ago, West High in Waterloo came to us. And what we started noticing, we partnered up with the University of Northern Iowa. We partnered with, the president and the provost. We partnered up with West High, and they brought us into the fold because they were noticing that a lot of immigrant students who came into the K through 12 system were not going on to college. They were not going on to a university. And so they wanted to know, how can we get these students to go into a university? Now, again, some of the background of these students, they didn't really see their parents. They don't see their siblings going on to a university. They may not have, again, that academic background because they've had interrupted education. They are non-traditional in some cases. Their grade level may not match their age level. And there are a lot of cultural values which would be different as far as what kind of jobs they may be thinking of getting in the future. Additionally, the accessibility, while we do provide the opportunity for them, very few of them are actually taking advantage of that. And one of the reasons is they don't know how to have academic rigor. They don't know how to have those study skills and to be at that level that they would need to go into the university. Going down to kind of this third area here, what we heard from a lot of these students was, it's too hard. I can't do university. It's way too difficult. I don't know English that well. I'm going to be alone. I'm not going to know anybody there. I'm bad at it. I'm bad at English. I'm bad at school, or I just don't want to go. So we tried to partner up with them so that they could get to know us and actually start to learn a little bit about what we do at the university. And we're trying to help bridge this transition from graduating high school to how do I get that college education? How do I get that degree? And basically just provide them that help. So what we did, we actually started a program for these students where we would have a class in the summertime to teach them what it is to go to a university, what it's like to be in an academic culture. And so our units, our chapters that we did with the students were all based on academic knowledge. For example, how to stay healthy when you're at a university, not letting that stress get to you. Or what's it going to be like in a classroom? Do I have to raise my hand? Are there going to be discussions? Anything like that. We also have them develop a resume so that when they go to apply for a university, they can submit that resume. And we also had them keep a portfolio. What we did was to meet in the class for 3 hours. We actually had to bus the students, which was new for us. We're not used to working with high school students. So we had to figure out how we could get students to the classroom and how to get them back. In the classroom, we had a CIEP instructor, which at the first time it was offered, it was myself, and then later on it's been other instructors. We have an ELL instructor because the students got a high school credit, and the only way to do that was to have a certified ELL instructor in the classroom, although they kind of assisted us more than actually taught. And then we had teaching assistants who were UNI university students interested in TESOL and just wanted to help us out. On Fridays, we actually brought the students to UNI so that they could see what it was like on campus. And then we had speakers come in who would share information like how to apply to the university. What can you do for jobs while you're in college? How do you apply for that? So those types of skills. And then we also had them research a little bit about UNI as well. At the end of the program, we did give them a certificate so that they could show that they had done this program. They got an English elective credit toward high school graduation. And then UNI offered those students to waiver their fee if they were to apply to UNI. So most of them, when they did this, they were juniors and they were thinking about applying to a university in the future. And then they also deferred a $320 admittance fee. And a lot of that, again, was to help these students because some of them financially are not able to take advantage of these offerings, right? To actually apply. And that's a big hurdle. So we have to try and help them get through that hurdle. So basically this here, it kind of goes through again what we did. I know that I'm kind of running short on time, so I'm going to skip this for now. But what we are planning in the future is to continue to support these students. We have some West High students from that original program on campus now. And we do offer 2 classes, an English 1005 and a Communications 1000, which are classes that freshman students at UNI have to take. And we have partnered up with those courses to co-teach it. So we have a CIEP instructor along with the professor of these courses just to help these international students as well as any ELL students that would come from West High or any other high school that they would come from. So we are working on identifying these students on campus and getting them enrolled in some of these programs so we can help them a little bit more. My last thing that I just want to talk about, if you do go into higher ed, there are plenty of things to do. Our job is not, clear cut. We don't do the same thing every day. We are very busy doing many different things. So we can teach classes in CIEP, we can teach special programs, we can teach abroad in some cases for certain programs. We can teach the international students that are at the academic level or on their way to the academic level through the Pathways program. But in addition to that, we also write a lot of reports. Anytime I teach a program, I have to write a report on how it went and what happened during it. We do have to choose our textbooks. It's something that we decide on as a program. But again, if you're teaching a special program, it may be something you actually have to develop. And so you are developing the curriculum, you're developing what textbook you're going to use with it. And so that is part of our job as well. We also have to serve on search committees. Anytime that we have a job opening, you can be asked to be on a search committee to help decide who will get that job. We also are sometimes partnered up with teaching assistants to advise them and to give them feedback, to help them out, to help them get the curriculum ready, get their lesson plans ready if needed. We have to be ambassadors to international universities. So when I do travel abroad to Peru or China or wherever it happens to be, I am considered an ambassador for the university. So I have to make relationships at that university, get to know the people there, help them in any way I can, because I am seen as an ambassador for UNI. And so I have to represent that. And then again, I have to attend meetings. It doesn't matter if it's a department meeting within CIEP. We have meetings with the university, like the provost or other departments on campus. It could even be in the community. I've had to go to West High to have meetings with the teachers there, or I've met with the superintendent to work on the program with West High. So again, our jobs are pretty open. You just never know what might come up. I think that's one of the exciting things for me. That's something that I enjoy, is always having something different coming up and different projects to work on. So really, whether you go into K through 12, whether you go into higher ed, I think there are benefits to both. I think there are difficulties and challenges to both, and it just depends on what you are interested in. So I'm going to kind of stop there. That was my last slide. If you guys have questions, I am happy to answer them.
I myself had a question over the Pathways program with
Yeah.
West High. Is that something that happens every year, or was that just a one-time thing?
No, it started about 2 years ago. We started with a summer program that lasted about a month. But what we have done, we don't want to lose these students because they are going into their senior year of high school. So we start with them as juniors. Now, we have extended the program to start them in the spring semester of their junior year. We have a CIEP instructor go over and teach a class after school. And that's how we get them started in the program. Then in the summer, we offer a more of an intensive program, and like about half a day, 3 hours. And then in the fall, we offer another class for them, which would get them through applying to a university. So we actually walk them through that process. Now in the spring, we would then start over again with the juniors, walk the juniors through the summer, walk them through the fall, and then go back to juniors. So we try to stay with them as much as we can through their junior and senior year.
And then did you mention that students from the university would help out with that?
Yes. So let's see, when I taught it, so the first time I taught it was 2 summers ago. I had 3, I believe I had 3 people who helped me in the classroom. Now, the interesting thing about that program is these are students who have immigrated to the United States. And when they do that, they don't all come at the same English level. So we had students who were at the very beginning almost of their English learning. I would say they were maybe like level 4. And then we had students all the way through like level 6. So with me in the classroom, we had the ELL teacher from West High, and then we had the student workers who helped us. We needed everybody because all the students were at different levels. They all needed individual instruction. We had about 17, I believe, students in the classroom. And it really did take all of us to work with them to get them to learn something. They didn't all end at the same level because they didn't all come in at the same level. But we wanted to give them that instruction and that help to improve their English. Yeah, so and kind of leading to perhaps Jessica, if you guys are interested in helping with any of these programs, the best thing that I can tell you is to contact the CIEP office and just let them know that you're interested. We never know when we need somebody. We never know when we need help. Like I said, we're very intensive. So every 8 weeks, we're switching, and we never know who's going to come in that 8 weeks because we don't know who's going to actually get their visa. We don't know who's actually going to arrive. And so until they're in our classroom sitting there, we don't know necessarily how many students we're going to have. So at any time, we may need extra help.
Yeah, I would love to get that information. I'll probably contact the CIEP office and probably pass that along, hopefully, because that sounds like really fun and exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've hyperlinked it into our meeting minutes. I just went to the CIEP website.
Perfect.
So
Thank
if
you.
anybody is interested.
Yes, that is great. It's one of those things where, we really do enjoy having everyone in the classroom. I have as much fun with the students that come in as I do with the international students in my classes. So I am happy to have anyone come and help.
You mentioned that for the pre-assessment before getting their placement, that they take an in-house test. I was wondering if you could tell me anything else about that. Is that proprietary, privileged information?
Well, I probably can't share it with you, but yeah, I can explain it. So the students who come in, we have to place them into the reading class, the listening speaking class, and the writing class. So we give them a test based on each. So students take a reading test, which would tell us where we call it falling down. When you fall down, that means that you are no longer able to answer questions to move up to another level. We also give them a listening test where they actually listen, they take notes so that we can see based on their notes how much information they're actually processing and getting from that lecture. We have a grammar test, and then we do ask them to write an essay. Now, the one thing that we can't just do kind of on their own is we actually have to interview every single student. So we set up an interview time with them, and we will talk to them for about 10 minutes. We'll have 2 teachers in that interview. One person will be asking the questions and having the conversation with them, while the other teacher is just listening to see what are they saying as far as what kind of grammar are they able to use. What level would that grammar fall into? So that takes a lot of time on us, but it's something that we really feel that is important. We want to place students in the right level, and we just have not found a test or anything that would really meet that criteria. Because, like I said, no intensive program is the same. No other intensive program will have the same levels that we do or teach the same thing necessarily in those levels that we do. Every program varies. So for us, it has to be in-house. It has to be done with each individual student. We look at their scores, and then we sit down, have a meeting, and we talk through all of them. Now, we do have one rule in that meeting. We will never place a student more than one level apart. So let's say a student places into level 4 reading, but they have level 6 listening speaking skills. Well, there's nothing in level 5. They've now gone above a level. The problem with that is, even though, yes, listening speaking is a separate skill, they still have to be able to read those directions. They still have to be able to read questions on a test. They still have to be able to write the answer sometimes. So they don't have the skills to even do just a listening speaking on its own. All skills are integrated. So we do ask the students to stay within one level. So we will drop them down into whatever the lowest level is. So they could be in like level 4 and then the other skills in level 5, but they could not be placed in 6. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is more just a personal curiosity thing on my end, but
Sure.
are there any like countries that you have like super commonly like represented in the IEP, or is it just like kind of from wherever?
We are seeing more of a mix now than we ever have before. When I started teaching in the program, pretty much most of the students were from Saudi Arabia. We still see a lot of students from Saudi Arabia, but not like we used to. When we had students from Saudi Arabia, I think we had about 120, 150 students. We were a big program at that point. Unfortunately, not many years later, the king of Saudi Arabia passed away, and the scholarship that students were given to come study in the United States was taken away from the students at that point. So we actually saw a decline in the number of students from Saudi Arabia. Now it just really depends on who that intensive program has a partnership with. So we have a partnership with China. We see a lot of Chinese students now, especially in the business department. We are working on a partnership with Peru. While they come, it's just a short-term program. They don't actually stay to go into our university most of the time. So I would say the rest of them, it's pretty varied. Short-term programs, we have short-term programs with Japan. We have short-term programs with South Korea. We have short-term programs with Mexico. So yeah, as far as that goes, it could be anywhere. Any other questions?
I have another one.
Okay.
So I know that you said you had kind of been involved with like the program with West High and like teaching with that. I'm just kind of curious, like what is like, I don't know how the best way to say this, I guess. Like what is the best way that you found to kind of like motivate some of those students to like even consider college as like a possibility for them? Because I did my level 1s at West High.
Mm-hmm.
Like in one of the ELL classrooms. And I know that like for a lot of those students, like they were just kind of like in high school because they had to be, and they didn't really have like high ambitions for after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was something that, you know, and the ELL instructors over at West High, they came to us and said, that's a problem. You know, they're not ambitious. They don't see the purpose in going to a university. They don't see how it's going to help them. But what's interesting, most of the time we were on a campus over in Waterloo. So that's where we met Monday through Thursday. But on Fridays, we would bring the students to UNI. And the first Friday that we brought the students, I was shocked. The students came, they were so dressed up. They were so excited. They were so talkative. It was like completely different students. But once they saw the campus and met people, talked to people, you know, I believe that they observed a class at the university. It was like a change. It all of a sudden it clicked and they were like, wow, like this is something that we can do. So I think the best thing that you can do is just to give them a little bit of that experience. If you can talk to them, you know, what do you want to do? Have you ever thought about this? Share with them your own experience. You know, I'm at the University of Northern Iowa. This is what I do. You know, this is something that I have to do in my classes. Reading is important, or we have to learn this so that you can do this. You know, just giving them as much experience as you can, I think is really the key because it's just not something they see. It's not a world that they know about. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. We had a student that was helping me in the classroom from UNI, and he was amazing because every time a student would come to class and would say, you know, I think I might be interested in being an engineer. This student teacher would go and research everything he could find about engineering. You know, what classes do you need? What schools in Iowa can you take engineering at? And he would come the next day and he would sit with that student and he would share all this information. And the students would get so excited. It was very personal to them. And so that's something I always remember from doing that program was just, you know, the more individual you can make it, the more you can show them, the more excited they get. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, so really, you know, coming to talk to you guys tonight, I really just wanted to share with you that there's not just one thing that we do in our job. It's constantly changing. For me, it's constantly exciting. But again, even if, well, I am at the intensive English level where I work with those academic students, but I still find myself working with high school students, working with you know, students in the K through 12 system. So it's really a varied job. And that's really the thing that I wanted to share with you guys was how varied it actually is.
What kind of work do graduate students tend to do in the program?
Yeah, it depends. We have graduate students who help us with research, or perhaps they would help us with making finals, like final tests that would be standardized. We also have graduate teaching assistants who actually teach in our program. Typically, they teach the lower levels, which might be like a, you know, level 2, level 3, or even a level 4, perhaps.
I believe that's what Dr. Milan Billing is trying to get me in to do next semester.
Yes, and I do know that we have openings, or I believe right now with the way numbers are looking that we will have openings for teachers. Yeah, most likely it would probably be teaching either a reading or a listening speaking class that would be at a lower level. I would highly doubt that you would teach a writing class because that's a 2-hour class. I don't know, it's possible depending on what we need, but my guess is it would be a reading or a listening speaking class at the lower level.
Awesome. I'm really excited.
I hope to see you. And that's the other thing you find too with intensive English programs. You always get to meet new people because you constantly have new people coming in, new people teaching, new students. Yeah, it's always something different. And it changes every 8 weeks. So, you know, like if you're in a K through 12 situation, you might be stuck with those kids for a while. But in higher ed, at least for us, every 8 weeks, we get a new group.
If there are no more questions, I just really wanted to thank you again so much for spending time and talking to us tonight. I feel like that was a great presentation. I learned a lot, and I'm really excited to like look into some of these programs and pass on information.
Mhm. Absolutely. Keep in touch with us and let us know if there's anything that you guys want to help us with. If you want to, volunteer for something, let us know. We would love to have interactions with the TESOL club. We would love to have activities with you guys. You can talk to the activities coordinator. I'm sure she has plenty of ideas, or you can present an idea to her. But yes, this is a great group, and I'm very excited to continue to see you guys.
Yeah. And it's nice having Mackenzie with us too.
Yes, it's a nice little inn.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. And if you have questions, again, just contact the CIEP office. You can contact the CIEP director, or you can even just contact me. My email is just jamie.west@uni.edu. And I'm happy to answer questions, or if I don't know the answer, I'll send you to whoever I think does know the answer.
Alrighty. To end this meeting, I don't have any announcements or housekeeping items. Unless anyone else does.
Is there like a mailing list or something I should be on?
Oh, yes, I will probably be sending out a document to everyone. I'll probably send that to Caroline to forward to everyone in the TESOL department. Just if they want to sign up and be, counted as part of the club. Again, I should have done this a while ago, but COVID made everything weird. So, but I will be sending that out.
If you like us on social media, it just makes a Google form. I can post the Google form there also, so we can get people from there onto a mailing list also.
Yes, that would be perfect. Alrighty. If nothing else, if no one has any other questions, announcements, I will end the meeting.
Hi, Eunice.
Jamie.
Thank you again, Jamie, and
Yeah, thank you.
great night. All right.
Bye.